Hey everyone, I was asked to do a video for kids about rock tumbling and how it works. So we're going to talk about agates and how they get all nice and shiny like this one, because they don't come out of the ground like this. So this is an agate that was found on the Oregon coast, and I polished it, made it all nice and shiny, but it's quite a process. So these agates have not been polished. You can see they're not shiny, they're pretty rough. And we use a rock tumbler to make them shiny. So I will show you what that looks like and how it works. So the first thing you're going to need if you want to make your rocks nice and shiny is a tumbler. So this is the drum of my tumbler. You have your drum, which is this. You have a base and then a motor, which I'll show you the other parts later. This particular tumbler is at least 50 years old. It belonged to my dad's uncle, so it's kind of grouchy and doesn't work very well, but we're getting through. So if you look inside, I got a bunch of rocks in there. You can see they're already starting to get shiny. These ones have been in the tumbler for 3 weeks. This whole process can take at least a month. So some of them are already starting to get a little shiny, and some of them not so much. You can see this one was really rough shape before it went into the tumbler, so unless I ground it down on a grinder or something, it's not going to get super shiny like that other one. These are all rocks that I got, I found along the Oregon coast. There is, I think, one little piece of jasper in there, and there's one piece of petrified wood right here that I found on the beach. But these are all beach rocks. And the majority of them are agates. You'll also notice the shape of this tumbler. It's got these corners on them. A lot of the new tumblers today are round, but I think this shape works better because it makes the rocks bounce around more when they're moving, because this thing rolls around on the base, which I will show you in a minute. Now the next thing you're going to need to get after you get your rock tumbler is grit. So you can see there are different steps of grit. I bought this on Amazon, but you can also get these in a local rock shop, which would actually be better if you have a local rock shop to get this stuff in. And then you can see all the cool rocks they have in there too. But anyway, you can see there's step 1, 2, 3, and 4. My rocks are about to start step 3, but I wanted to show you what these look like. So you can see, so this one, it's hard to tell on the camera, but this is really coarse grit. So it's kind of like sand. So you'll put it in with the grit number 4, or excuse me, grit step 1. Will go in there for about 2 weeks. And then number 2, you can see it's a little bit finer. That one goes in there for about a week. Mine are ready for number 3. I'm starting to get a little bit finer, looks a little bit more like powder. So that'll go for about another week. And then we have powder, the polish, which is super, super fine. And it'll do that for 3 or 4 days. All right, so my rocks are ready for step number 3. So we get a big scoop here. And my rock tumbler is pretty big. It can handle quite a bit of agates. So I'm going to use about 3 of these scoops. I'm not quite filling it full because it's not quite, it's kind of hard to get it out of there. So we're going to do about 3 of these in there. And this stuff we'll need to check to see how our rocks are doing after several days. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. The next thing we're going to need is some water. So with your water, you want to pour that in, and you're going to need to cover the top of the rocks by about 1 inch or so. Make sure they're all covered up. That's probably about good. And then we want to seal it up. But before we do that, we want to make sure and check this and make sure that there's no grit, nothing along these edges, because if there is, it could cause the tumbler to leak. And my tumbler, like I said, is very old. The rubber's starting to get rough, so I'm going to have to do some extra steps to make sure that it doesn't leak. Because if it leaks and your tumbler goes dry, then it's not going to work to get your rocks all shiny. So I have this piece, which is the gasket, and it keeps the water in. And these, like I said, this tumbler is very old. The new styles aren't quite like this. I don't know if they still make this kind of tumbler. And then we've got this metal part that goes on top. There we go. And then we've got some washers. So my tumbler has washers and then wing nuts that go over the top of these washers. So make sure that it's going to be all nice and tight on here, because again, you really don't want it to leak, because that would be a problem. And you also want to check your tumbler. If it's a good tumbler, you could check it every day if you wanted to. That's not going to be as exciting though, because you won't notice the change very well because it's very gradual. It's better to wait, you know, several days to check it. Because my tumbler is grouchy and leaky, I don't like to check it unless I have to, because it's such a pain, because it likes to leak. So every time I open it, I have to be prepared to fiddle around with it for a while to make sure it stops leaking, which is really annoying. So again, old grouchy tumbler doesn't work the best. And then again, because my tumbler leaks and it will come out here, I have to do an extra step. I have to put plumber's putty on my tumbler. So I will show you how that looks when it's all done. Alright, so here's my rock tumbler with the plumber's putty. Basically, I just take it and roll it out like a snake, like you do with Play-Doh, and then stick it on the seam here to make sure that it's not going to leak, because again, you don't want to lose any of your water out of it. It might leak a little bit, and that's okay, but if you lose a lot of water, again, your tumbling is not going to work the way you want it to. So I'm going to test this thing for leaks by rolling it around on its side, and then I'll show you what the base of the tumbler looks like. Alright, my tumbler didn't have any leaks in it, so now it's ready to go on the base. And the base for my tumbler is inside this box. My dad built this box for me because tumblers are very loud, but your tumbler, if you buy one, wouldn't have this type of box, but you could build one for it. So the base is actually this part down here. So we have a motor, which turns right here, and this is a belt. It's kind of hard to see. So it will turn right here. It turns this, which is rubber, and it turns this wheel, and then that turns this bar right here, and it will spin, which causes this one to spin when the tumbler is on it. So we can plug it in so you can see how it works, and then I'll put the drum on it. So you can see it's spinning that thing there. It's already kind of loud. Wait till I put the drum on it. It'll be even louder. Alright, so the drum is in place. We want to make sure that the wing nuts don't run into the belt right there. Otherwise, that will mess up the belt and it'll stop running. So let's plug it in. And there it goes. And you'll need to leave it plugged in 24 hours a day. You want to keep an eye on it when you first put it on there to make sure, again, that it's not leaking. And also, if you have a newer tumbler, again, it's not going to be as grouchy as mine, and it probably won't leak, probably won't be as loud, and you probably won't have as many problems with it. But this is what I got, so this is what I'm going to use. And this will run like this for about a week, and then I will take it out, clean the rocks off, put the polish in with some water, and run it for 3 or 4 more days, and they should be done. So that's how you use your rock tumbler.